In this video, we are going to discuss the Marine Collision Regulations, the Part A of COLREGs, or the Rules of the Road. Marine Collision Regulations. Part A, General. Rule 1, Application. Rule 2, Responsibility. Rule 3, General. Rule 8, Application. A. These rules shall apply to all vessels upon the high seas and in all waters connected therewith navigable by seagoing vessels. This paragraph corresponds to Rule LA of the 1960 regulations but makes no specific reference to seaplanes. A seaplane is now included in the definition of a vessel given in Rule 3A and should therefore be considered as a power-driven vessel for the purpose of these rules, except as specifically provided for in Rule 18E and Rule 31. B. Nothing in these rules shall interfere with the operation of special rules made by an appropriate authority for roadsteads, harbors, rivers, lakes, or inland waterways connected with the high seas and navigable by seagoing vessels. Such special rules shall conform as closely as possible to these rules. The text of this paragraph is substantially the same as Rule 30 of the 1960 regulations. Roadsteads are now included among the areas for which an appropriate authority may lay down special rules. A roadstead is an open anchorage, generally protected by shoals, which offers less protection than a harbor. This means that coastal states or local authorities may make special rules for areas which lie outside the usual limits of inland waters. Mariners should be aware that special rules may be applicable in such areas, and should consult the sailing directions and other publications for details. Special rules concerning lights, sound signals, and other aspects of collision avoidance are in force in many ports, rivers, canals, and inland waters throughout the world. The final sentence of paragraph B has been added to stress the need for conformity. It is hoped that there will be no proliferation of special rules and that the authorities will make every effort to eliminate any important differences with the 1972 regulations which would be likely to confuse mariners. C. Nothing in these rules shall interfere with the operation of any special rules made by the government of any state with respect to additional station or signal lights, shapes, or whistle signals for ships of war and vessels proceeding under convoy, or with respect to additional station or signal lights, shapes, or whistle signals for ships of war and vessels proceeding under convoy, or with respect to additional station or signal lights or shapes for fishing vessels engaged in fishing as a fleet. These additional station or signal lights, shapes, or whistle signals shall, so far as possible, be such that they cannot be mistaken for any light, shape, or signal authorized elsewhere under these rules. The provisions of both Rules 13A and 28D of the 1960 regulations are included in this paragraph. The rule refers to additional lights and signals for fishing vessels, warships, etc., authorized by the government of any state, and does not apply to the signals for vessels fishing in close proximity listed in Annex to which have received international agreement. Paragraph C was amended in 1981 to include Shape S. D. Traffic separation schemes may be adopted by the organization for the purpose of these rules. This section of the rule gives IMO, the organization, the authority to adopt traffic separation schemes to which the provisions of Rule 10 of the 1972 regulations will apply. A traffic separation scheme is defined by IMO as follows: a routing measure aimed at the separation of opposing streams of traffic by appropriate means and by the establishment of traffic lanes. A traffic separation scheme is a routing measure, the particulars of which are laid down in the IMO publication Ships Routing. This publication gives details of all traffic schemes adopted by the organization. Amendments are issued to enable the publication to be kept up to date, and information about new schemes or amendments to existing schemes are also promulgated through notices to mariners. It is important to keep nautical charts and publications up-to-date with respect to any changes concerning traffic separation schemes. E. Whenever the government concerned shall have determined that a vessel of any special construction or purpose cannot comply with the provisions of any of these rules with respect to the number, position, range, or arc of visibility of lights or shapes, as well as to the disposition and characteristics of sound signaling appliances, such vessel shall comply with such other provisions in regard to the number, position, range, or arc of visibility of lights or shapes, as well as to the disposition and characteristics of sound signaling appliances, as her government shall have determined to be the closest possible compliance with these rules in respect of that vessel. This paragraph originally had particular application to naval vessels but was also applied to other vessels of special construction and purpose when full compliance with the provisions of the rules for lights, shapes, or sound signaling appliances could not be achieved without interfering with the special function of the vessel. Rule 2. Responsibility. A. Nothing in these rules shall exonerate any vessel, or the owner, master, or crew thereof, from the consequences of any neglect to comply with these rules, or of the neglect of any precaution which may be required by the ordinary practice of seamen, or by the special circumstances of the case. This rule is very similar to Rule 29 of the 1960 regulations, but does not include provisions about carrying lights or keeping a proper lookout. The need for a proper lookout is now covered separately, with greater emphasis, in Rule 5, and the requirement to carry lights or signals is adequately covered in Rule 20 and subsequent rules. B. In construing and complying with these rules, due regard shall be had to all dangers of navigation and collision and to any special circumstances, including the limitations of the vessels involved, which may make a departure from these rules necessary to avoid immediate danger. This paragraph is almost identical with Rule 27 of the 1960 rules. The term vessels which has been substituted for craft includes non-displacement craft and seaplanes by the definition of Rule 3. Rule 3. General definitions. For the purpose of these rules, except where the context otherwise requires. A. The word vessel includes every description of watercraft, including non-displacement craft, wig craft, and seaplanes, used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water. B. The term power-driven vessel means any vessel propelled by machinery. C. The term sailing vessel means any vessel under sail provided that propelling machinery, if fitted, is not being used. D. The term vessel engaged in fishing means any vessel fishing with nets, lines, trawls, or other fishing apparatus which restrict maneuverability, but does not include a vessel fishing with trolling lines or other fishing apparatus which do not restrict maneuverability. E. The word seaplane includes any aircraft designed to maneuver on the water. F. The term vessel not under command means a vessel which through some exceptional circumstance is unable to maneuver as required by these rules and is therefore unable to keep out of the way of another vessel. G. The term vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver means a vessel which, from the nature of her work, is restricted in her ability to maneuver as required by these rules, and is therefore unable to keep out of the way of another vessel. H. The term vessel constrained by her draft means a power-driven vessel, which, because of her draft in relation to the available depth and width of navigable water, is severely restricted in her ability to deviate from the course she is following. I. The word underway means that a vessel is not at anchor, or made fast to the shore, or aground. J. The words length and breadth of a vessel mean her length overall, and greatest breadth. K. Vessels shall be deemed to be in sight of one another only when one can be observed visually from the other. L. The term restricted visibility means any condition in which visibility is restricted by fog, mist, falling snow, heavy rainstorms, sandstorms, or any other similar causes. M. The term winging a ground wing craft means a multimodal craft which, in its main operational mode, flies in close proximity to the surface by utilizing surface effect action. Thank you for watching. God bless us all.